In this quick tip, I'm going to show you the right way to pull a graphite shaft out of a driver head. Let's go. Hi everyone, it's AJ, the Mobile Club Maker. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoy it, please go down below and like it, share it with a friend, or subscribe to the channel. Today, this quick tip, we're going to talk about removing a graphite shaft from a driver head. This has an adjustable hosel, so what I'm going to show you will work for any adjustable hosel, driver, fairway wood, any of them. It's the same basic process. As always, I've got my workbench camera up above to hopefully give you a better view of what I'm doing. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do is remove the shaft and the adapter from the head. The head is not necessary in this process. We can move it out of the way so it doesn't get damaged. It's just easier to work with the shaft and the adapter by themselves. So we'll go ahead and unscrew the head. Okay. Here's the driver head, and here's the adapter. In some cases, some drivers, the little screw holding the driver to the shaft will come out of the head completely. In other cases like this one, it's actually connected into the driver head. It won't come out. So we're going to need a separate screw to help us get this out. All right, so this is what we're going to use to get the adapter off this shaft. This is basically just a long machine screw with a couple of washers to pull the shaft and the adapter apart. This right here cost me less than $1 for one screw and 2 washers. So you just need to find the right size screw to fit inside this little adapter. Okay, so here's the process. This will work for pulling any graphite shaft out. First off, we're going to go ahead and thread this screw into the adapter. Okay, so I've just put my screw washer combination into my hosel adapter. Basically just screwed it in, leaving me about an inch and a half. Next, we're going to talk about the shaft extractor. Anytime you're pulling a graphite shaft, a shaft extractor is going to be a helpful tool to have. You don't have to do it. You don't have to buy one of these or use one of these, but it's a lot easier. If you're worried or concerned about removing the shaft and possibly reusing it, you definitely are going to want some sort of shaft extractor to pull the shaft out straight and even without any twisting or bending. Any twisting or bending is horrible for any carbon composite shaft and basically will ruin it faster than anything. So some sort of device that pulls the shaft evenly and in a straight line without twisting is what you want. There's a lot of different options at various prices. They all do basically the same thing. It's just about how quickly you can go through them and go from one club to the next, how sturdy they are. This one's a little bit more elaborate, but by no means the most expensive thing out there, but it does the job perfectly. So what we're going to do is insert the shaft into the shaft extractor with the adapter in between this pulling arm and the vise clamp. I'm going to go ahead, tighten it down. Remember, anytime you're working with a graphite shaft, you don't want to tighten anything too much because you don't want to possibly crack the shaft. All right. Okay, now that we have the shaft in the shaft extractor, we're going to talk about the heat source. In this case, a heat gun. For a steel shaft, you could use a blowtorch, either butane, propane, MAP torch. Any of those is fine. The steel shaft can handle it. A graphite shaft, specifically if you're trying to save it and reuse it, you want to use the lowest heat possible so you don't possibly melt the epoxy holding the shaft together. In that case, that's a heat gun. So what we're going to do is basically start heating up this adapter until we can get the epoxy soft enough to pull it off. All right, let's get it started. Just like with the steel shaft, you want to move the heat gun around. Keep it moving. Don't keep it in one place too long. Go to the top, go underneath. Basically, you're focusing the heat at the very tip of the adapter where the bottom of the shaft would be, and then kind of working your way up a little bit as you go. But you want to try and keep it mainly focused down here at the bottom. As you're doing this, after about You know, depending on how hot your heat gun gets, you'll want to start putting a little more tension on the shaft, just to start to get an idea of how the epoxy is doing. All right, put a little more tension on there. Keep going. I'm going to tighten this up just a touch, just to try and get it a little bit tighter. Come up here to the top, get a little more heat up here. And let's see if we got enough. And there it goes. The moment you have enough heat on it that the epoxy starts to break down, you want to go ahead and stop heating it. So I'm going to start wrenching this off. Let me also grab my shop gloves because this will be hot. We don't want to be touching it with our bare hand. Pull, pull, pull this off. Keep using the shaft extractor. Again, you don't want to ever twist it if you're trying to save that shaft because you will damage that shaft. So just keep using the shaft extractor to pull it off until you get to the very end, and there it goes. At this point, we'll go ahead and remove our little screw washer combination. And just like with the steel shaft, after you go ahead and pull that head, you want to go ahead and clean out the old epoxy that may be in there, because this is the best time now that it's good and soft. You don't want to wait till it gets cooled down again, because then the epoxy becomes much more difficult to get out of there. So a little wire brush like this. That looks pretty good already. Use my little drill with the sandpaper end on it, just a little bit. Just a little bit of that. And there you go. If you were going to save the shaft, we would go ahead, pull that shaft off right now while it's still warm. Take this glove off now. Grab my utility knife, and we can clean up the end of the shaft a little bit. Again, while it's warm, the epoxy will come right off. It's much simpler to clean it off now as opposed to waiting until it gets hard again. There may be a little bit of epoxy down in the very tip of the shaft. If you are planning on reusing it, you'll of course want to get that epoxy out. Sometimes it'll come out with the club when you pull it. Sometimes you'll have to get a drill, a little drill bit, and drill through that just so you have an opening through it. So that's basically it. We pulled the shaft out of the adapter. It's very simple, especially when you can remove the head altogether and just deal with the adapter and the shaft. Makes it much simpler to heat up, deal with. You don't have to worry about damaging the head. You just need to make sure you have some sort of screw that fits into the adapter screw head, a couple of washers to support your shaft extractor, and low heat from a heat gun. That's all it takes. Took about less than 5 minutes start to finish. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, again, go down below, like it, share it with a friend, or subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you again soon. Keep it in the short grass.